kind of scratched my head about the hydraulic fracturing disclosure rules, because the industry secrets exemption, the trade secrets exemption, how big a difference does it make? I mean, if you have, a few gallons of some secret chemical, how much a difference can that make in your productivity? I mean, why go to such lengths to protect it when it becomes a public relations house?
So that's a good question that works in two ways. But first, I will say that the new rule that will go into effect on April 1st does allow trade secret protection, but every chemical has to be, its family name has to be listed, and its concentration. And so there's actually very little that is being protected at this point. Companies have, so they don't have to provide the same level of detail that some wanting every chemical listed, but there's very little that is undisclosed in the new rule. It's the rule that goes the farthest in the country, by quite a long ways, actually. Now, that said, you can ask the reverse, which is, what does a landowner need to know about a trade secret protected chemical? And the reality is, there's only a couple reasons a landowner might want to know the list of all the chemicals being used in their well. One is so they can test their groundwater, and the other is just curiosity, right? Like, what is it? I'm just curious. Because when you're injecting these fluids, they're isolated from the shallow aquifer. They're going into an oil and gas producing formation and then returning to be managed with oil and gas fluids. So the additives for these hydraulic fracturing fluids are quite tiny. So less than half of 1% make up all the additives. So if there was some kind of release to groundwater, that's what we're interested in, right? We're going to test these wells just like we're doing in our baseline water sampling program. In that case, you don't actually test for these additives because the concentrations are so small they wouldn't be detectable. You sample for things like methane, for the oil and gas is what would get there first. But even if the fluid were to get there, you would test for big indicators like pH, total dissolved solids, things like that. You don't actually test for all the additives. So there's not a need to know every single chemical. It's really at this point more of an interest or a curiosity. And so there's a fine balance between protecting the needs of a company to develop trade secret protections and providing a landowner or a community with the information they need.
I am a landowner. I'm a co-owner of the millions and millions of acres under jurisdiction of the Department of Interior and the Department of Agriculture through the BLM and the Forest Service.
Mm-hmm.
And my attitude is, you guys want to drill out there and make billions of dollars, good. But as a landowner, and I am a landowner, consider myself a co-owner of that property, I think I should get to know every chemical that's going in there, and that should be part of the cost of your doing business for all the money they're making, which is billions and billions of dollars. So yeah, that's kind of my attitude, and I don't think it's just a curiosity. We're going to have the land there forever after you guys are gone. We're still going to be co-owning that land, and we have an interest in it. So yeah, we have a material interest in, as co-owners of the land, in knowing what the formula is, what the chemicals are that are going in, and it's far beyond. I must tell you, it's far beyond a frivolous little curiosity.
So there
as
are,
a Westerner for all my life.
So there are others that share your perspective. I'm not one of them. I'm an environmental scientist, and so of interest to me is, what do we do with this data, and what's the appropriate level of data that gives us something to do with. But your view is shared by others. I would say that, like all things in context, must be balanced with other considerations. And an important consideration is what will give companies the incentive to develop the best fluids. And the best fluids mean a couple things. One, often it's using the fewest amount of chemicals, because every additive, so there might be up to 6 additives, say, in a formula, and they have specific purpose. So one is a biocide. It makes sure that you don't develop algae. One is a friction reducer, allows you to use less water. One might be a thickening agent, allows you to carry the proppant. Everyone has a specific purpose, and ideally, as a business, you want to use as few of these chemicals as possible. They cost money, And so or they help you use less water. So the best formula is truly not only in the best business interest, but generally speaking also in the best environmental interest, because it allows you to use less chemicals, less water. That said, there's a further consideration that right now all of the investment dollars are going into green fluids. So trade secrets right now, while people in the public have been identifying trade secrets with, it must be something that's the most toxic. In reality, trade secret protection right now is going to the new green fluids. So in order to incentivize a company to develop a green fracking fluid, they have to be able to protect it. Each formation is different, so what works in this part of Colorado might not work in this part of Colorado, or even over in a different basin in Wyoming. And so you're going to be developing different combinations that work in different environments. And so trade secret protection is something, if you're not an advocate, as I am, that all businesses deserve trade secret protection under Colorado existing law, then at a minimum, the considerations of how this will affect the use of chemicals and exploration and production and the efficient development of this resource, it's worth considering.